This program contains crazy material, including offensive language. Listening discretion is advised. Welcome to another episode of A VO's Padded Room. This week, we sit down with the talented Jeff Zapp and discuss all things VO, from audio to pay-to-play. So sit back, strap up those straitjackets, and join your hosts, Big Jim and Brad Storm, in A VO's Padded Room. Welcome back to another episode of A VO's Padded Room. If you're on YouTube, you've probably heard his voice, whether it's how-to videos or the latest top 10. He's the founder of a multimedia company and specializes in audio and video production for clients around the globe. As a fellow veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, he holds a Bachelor's of Science in Aerospace and a Master's of Arts in Technology from Kent State University. He lives with his wife and 2 children. When he's not in the studio, he enjoys traveling, I almost said dog racing. He enjoys traveling, drag racing, motorcycle riding, playing his guitar, and long walks on the beach. He is Jeff Zapp. Welcome, brother. Welcome to the
show. All right. Thank you.
How you doing today, buddy?
Appreciate that introduction, man. I feel, like royalty.
Oh. Hey, when can we go on a long walk on the beach together? That's what I want to know. That's my main thing right now.
I had to add that in there, baby.
Anytime you want.
I need a walk.
Barefoot, right?
Oh, right on. So,
no, I don't want to get sand in my shoes.
What do you want to talk about today?
We can talk about anything that you want, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with your multimedia company?
So let's step back and talk a little bit about how I got into this. I think that's relevant because as we were talking before we went live, I was sharing a little bit in terms of why I got into this. And quite honestly, the reason that I've always enjoyed being behind the microphone. And this goes to one of my first interviews about 20 years ago. And this was on NPR, morning edition, I guess. So what it's called. And Vivian Goodman, this was a local affiliate in Kent, Ohio, where I got my undergrad and later my graduate degree there. And she had mentioned to me, she's like, boy, you've got a radio voice. We hear that a lot. I was like, oh, thanks. I've always, growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, WMMS, the Buzzards, and, WNCX and so forth. I said there were some DJs that I absolutely, aspired. I thought, man, that's what I would love to do. But everybody kept telling, oh, there's no money in radio, and you're an aerospace guy, and so.
Hey, they weren't lying to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, my one buddy who's a very successful pharmaceutical sales guy, and I was doing pretty well myself in sales, and for aerospace specifically, when I got into it, when you're trained for a really cutting edge or bleeding edge technology, and specifically what I was focused in at the time is why I was being interviewed for NPR. As I was a young entrepreneur / techie that just had a unique skill set that was able to work with aircraft manufacturers. And at the time, virtual reality was becoming a big thing. And this is in the late 90s, early 2000s. And digital manufacturing, so the design, mock-up, and so forth, everything from the 777 at the time was fly-by-wire, and that was a big breakthrough for the Boeing Aircraft Company. But getting into unmanned aerial vehicles and other types of weapons delivery systems and platforms, that's what I did, and I absolutely loved it. And so they had me on, and anyway, long story short, I'll keep it short, is she said, you should really consider, even just part-time. So I always kept that in the back of my mind. Fast forward a few years, and then the company that I was working for needed somebody to do some e-learning, right? Do some narrations.
Did you know what e-learning was at the time?
I did. So I ended up working for my father-in-law for a company called Lexicomp. I transferred from aerospace to healthcare, and this was a medical publishing company that he started in the late 70s. And what I wanted to do was, there was a couple of creatives there, and I grew up playing percussion, drums, and then later self-taught guitar, and so we'd get together and talk, and they said, hey, man, you'd be really, I see you like to sing and perform, and you'd be great for doing these narrations. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? It's kind of electronic learning, so we can put it up, give it to customers. I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it. So we started doing it, and I really didn't understand it at the time. And I thought, quite honestly, I just thought it was reading, right?
Yeah.
Boy, was I mistaken.
You're winded. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How many more of these got to read?
Yeah, please click here, this will take you to this menu screen. And I started to learn and I developed a love for it. My job required me to get up in front of C-level suite people to give business presentations. And so I kind of had the communication aspect down, quote, conversational, but I wanted to bust into it, but I kept putting it on the back burner. Right.
And when was this? What year was that?
So this is mid 2000s, 2007, 2008, when I really started doing more of the e-learning. And of course I wasn't getting paid anything extra. I was a sales manager at the time for Lexicon. And, basically what transpired is I tapped out of the corporate world right around 2012. I wanted to focus on my marriage and my family. I recognized that I was, sacrificing a lot, for the money, if you will. I was really trying to put that first, which is important, to pay the bills. But I was missing out on a lot of those special, unique activities with my kids. My kids were getting older and I wasn't able to really be there for a lot of those things. And my wife, who was a nurse by trade, she was actually kind of staying home and being the homemaker while I was traveling the world, right, as a salesman. And so we were successful and things were going well, but I wanted to really step away, pull the throttles back, and kind of reevaluate my life, because I watched my dad work 40 some years and then retire and really not do a lot outside of just chilling out, And I thought, well, my goodness, I'm getting, I'm in my 40s. It's a great opportunity to really, now I'm in great physical shape, to be able to spend quality time with my family. So that's what I decided to do. And of course, my wife says I got ants in my pants. I'm one of these nonstop A+ personality, hair is on fire, going Mach 2 all the time. And I was looking for something to get into, and I wanted to start another business. I was doing real estate at the time, personal. Although I have my professional license here in South Carolina, I was doing some of our rentals and property and management and so forth. And that was just kind of burning me out. I was looking at something that I could start from home and develop, some of those skills that I'm passionate about, being behind a microphone. And I can't remember, I think it was at a local football game where I was doing the announcing, the play-by-play.
Yeah, nice.
And so this is for Hilton Head Christian Academy. And one of my friends came up to me after the game and they said, "Was that you up there in the box?" I said, "It was." And the same comment, "Boy, you have a great voice. You should be in radio."
Why, thank you.
Yeah, really, I appreciate that. And so, I kind of put it together and I said, let me do some research. I have a friend that's an actor. And he said, "You should get into acting with me." And I'm like, "Dude, have you looked at my mug? I'm no Matthew McConaughey, man. I've got red hair and reddish skin." And I said, "Bottom line is I'd like to do something." He's like, "Voice acting." And so I started researching. Long story short there, I stumbled into Bill DeWeese on the internet.
Same thing I did too. That's who I went to first.
Actually, he was like the third person that I found. There were a couple other places. I won't mention names. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, but Bill seemed to be the most authentic, down to earth. He had a lot of YouTube videos out there. Really a phenomenal marketer, right? So we know, a brilliant teacher and educator, and he does really well. He'll be the first to tell you he doesn't have the best voice, but he has consistently crushed it in terms of earnings. I mean, for what he does, he's got the whole family working for him, so he does a phenomenal job.
You think about it, it's like if you build these systems and you put them in place and you fine tune them, and your marketing, it just explodes. Once you figure out how to make it work for you. And Bill, he's a content creating machine.
He is. It's
and I believe highly in content. I do.
No, it has to be quality content. You just can't throw your logo out there and put a couple of texts in an Instagram post and think that you're going to have thousands of followers. You have to have something that's creative. Corey Disson talks about the know, like, and trust factor. It's so critical. I thought I had it down pretty well, and I didn't really. Quite honestly, I never paid attention to Instagram until about February or March of this year, when I hired Corey to kind of come alongside of me and teach me some things that I need to be doing, because I really don't like social media. I just don't. But I knew it had to be a means to an end, right? Which to be able to promote myself. I'm also a very humble person. I don't really like to honk my horn at all. I like actions to speak for myself. And, I'm a firm believer in that, but you do have to talk yourself up and market. So, right. So Bill
Right.
is incredible with that. Right, guys. So I really started, making the decision. This is a couple of years back where I'm like, all right, if I'm going to do this full time, like everything else in my life, I'm going to dive in, full force with both feet. And I'm going to learn everything that I can about voiceover. So I started reading books, and I enrolled in the Blueprint, which Bill, I think it was the original Blueprint, maybe because it changed to Blueprint 2.0 when I was 3 or 4 months into it. Anyway, that's what I decided to do, and that's how I got to where I'm at right now. And it was quite a learning process. I mean, from my first makeshift booth that I did out of PVC and vocal blankets to go, and Sennheiser sitting on a boom with a Zoom H6 or H5, kind of Mike Delgadio, I think is what I learned from him, trying to set it up, and then just trying to hone my trade. I read and studied as much as I could, because I quickly realized it doesn't matter how good you think your voice is. It's all about performance, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the audio engineering side of it, how fun was that? Was that a challenge for you, or was that?
No, I actually enjoy it. Matter of fact, that's the thing that I'm getting to the point about the multimedia, is why I enjoy it so much. So I'm an engineer by trade, right? My background is very technical, and I am an analytical guy. I'm one of those strange combination left and right brain. I'm an outgoing personality type, but I also am very analytical, critical thinker. I like my time in the morning where I journal and I write stuff out. That's my entrepreneurial, if you will, where I'm thinking everything through and strategizing. So visioneering really typically is for me. I love that. But the technical aspect, and especially as it comes to audio, because these were digital tools like Adobe Audition, Adobe Premiere Pro, all this Creative Cloud suite, learning how to utilize it. And there's a ton of resources out there on YouTube, and you could take workshops and classes. I just loved it. So I never really, because I listened to a few people that I thought were instrumental early on. Jason Levine, I don't know if you ever listened to him.
I do, absolutely.
Mike Russell and his team, his wife, they are amazing. I would always, the equalize, normalize, compress, normalize. I kind of follow the ECNC style. And I was always told that for voiceover specifically, you shouldn't really be compressing too much, in a lower ratio, maybe 1.5 to 2. So I'm very careful. Even for the promos that I do, I'm very light compression. I've got that baritone voice where, Jim, I'm not
right. You already have it,
but I can go lower in my register. What is it? Jeff Bell. Have you guys watched any of Jeff Bell's stuff? He's the voice of Ford. He has on Instagram and LinkedIn. I see him a lot. He's phenomenal. But he talks about this lower register voice and getting to some of the different performance aspects. And I quickly learned that I'm just going to let my natural voice. That's why I'm using the TLM 103 today. It sounds a little bit different, certainly, than the Sennheiser, the MK, for the 416. And so I've enjoyed learning. Back to your question, Jim, long way around the shed. I enjoy learning and applying the skill set to produce, whether it's a video, whether it's a promo, whether it's an audiobook, whether it's a podcast. All those skills certainly can be leveraged, right? And
wearing many hats is a beneficial thing.
And that's what I love about this. And so that's what got me into it. I'm not going anywhere. Brad, you and I discussed this over coffee. I would love to be doing more work on the freelance sites, but I have come to the realization, like I can do, a 15-minute video for $15, but the level you finally get to a level in your performance that you realize, boy, you're really selling yourself short. Okay. I don't care if I've got 65 or 100 5-star reviews. If I'm only still making an average of $12 per gig on Fiverr, to me, it's not worth it. And, I hate saying that because I'm not a quitter, but at the same time, I try to strategize, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck in terms of time, talent, and treasure invested for those particular market segments. And it's the same thing with the pay to play. I mean, we can talk about that a little bit here in a second as well. And I think I have 4 different subscriptions to pay to play sites. And
yeah, what are your thoughts on pay to play? I mean, because I feel like a lot of times you're competing with so many different people, and with certain pay to plays like Voices 1, 2, 3, where individuals can pay a certain amount of money and they get put up in the front of the line. So you're competing against not only the people, but also the people that have better earnings than possibly you do to wheel and deal. So,
well, here's what I was told specifically about voices.com, because I've done a couple of phone calls with their technical consultant. Specifically, what they told me is that even if you're the highest paying member, now I don't know if this is true, this is what I was told, that regardless of if you're paying $5,000 a year versus $499 or whatever it is for the membership that I have, that it's all predicated on that signature, the algorithm that they have. If you're 100% match, that you go to the top of the line if you're 100%. If Brad's only 70 and Jim's only 60, then when we submit our audition, we come into the queue based on what the voice match is.
Right.
Now, I will tell you that when I first started, the first 300 auditions, I auditioned for everything under the sun, right?
yeah.
And then I realized that I wasn't being shortlisted, that maybe I was just trying to, crack it out of the park for a $150 gig, right? And then I started becoming very selective, and I didn't get my first job until the beginning of this year. And it took me over 500 auditions to get that first job. It was not a high-paying job. It was for a national company, a big firm out of New York. And it was a whiteboard animator, and I was going to do a few different spots. And I had the majority of the copy of the script to narrate. And there was going to be a female on the other side, and I won't mention her name because she got a 5-star review. I ended up getting a 4-star review. They never gave me any feedback.
This was on a pay to play?
Yep. It took 6 weeks to do a self-service job. It was supposed to be a directed session. And it really left a bad taste in my mouth because I asked the dude, I'm like, any feedback? Why you gave me 4? This is my first job. That's what people see as soon as they log in. You go to Voices and look me up, right?
Right.
So he goes, well, we sometimes we really like somebody with more acting ability.
Well, why did you pick somebody else then?
And to me, he goes, but boy, your customer service and your response times were incredible. Listen, I've been in business a long time, and I'm not green behind the ears. Jim, you can attest to this from the military. You're told to do a job, you go do it to the best of your damn ability, right? And if you don't do it well, then your superior officer or NCO or whomever's in charge lets you know what's going on, right? Good to go. All right, I'm dialed in. I'm ready.
Or you're an ID10 Tango.
There you go. It really pissed me off, honestly. And I was for a couple of days, and then the coach I was working with at the time, Mike Hathcote, said, "Dude, just let it go." He's like, "It's going to make you really upset." He's like, sounds like you listened to it and said, "It sounds great. You're going to work with producers and the creative side where, for whatever reason," I think even Bill DeWeese said, "Yeah, just let it go." He's like, "You'll bring that up. You'll be booking more work." Well, guess what? I've been shortlisted for a few national spots, which is the point that I wanted to get to, about prostituting ourselves as a voice actor.
We know what that sound is, everyone. Time for another round of a VO's Padded Improv. Okay, Jeff, today we're going to have you read a script as Rocky Balboa. You can do this, Jeff. Oh, yes. We have faith. So here's a quick script of Rocky talking to his son. So whenever you're ready, Jeff, take it away.
Let me see if I can do this here. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's
No,
I don't blame you.
Let's see. But let me tell you something. But it ain't about how hard you hit. Now, that was a little country.
I know, right? George Rocky Balboa.
It's it's about how hard you can hit and keep moving forward. It's how much you can take. Keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Yeah.
That's how winning is done. Yeah.
I like it.
It's a little harder to do it on the spot, man. I don't know if we're going to be doing improv anytime soon.
Punch it in the face.
Punch in the face, baby.
Punch in the face.
Hey, Adrian.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Watching Terminator last night, I was trying to do my Arnold Schwarzenegger, man. I used to love to do that. The original Terminator.
Stick it around.
I'm a Sierra Cana. Hey,
What do you think about this, first of all? I mean, it must be Rocky month on VO's Padded Room. So what do you think about Rocky Balboa, first of all? Did you watch any Rocky?
Rocky Balboa was one of the motivational forces in my life as a young kid, and then actually even through high school. So I was a wrestler. I've always been competitive, but specifically like Rocky 2, Rocky 3 specifically when I was wrestling in high school. I mean, I remember playing the soundtrack for that. We all listened. That was the motivator, right? But Rocky is such a real, authentic force for motivation in each of our lives, because it's not just about boxing, right? It's about real life. That's the beauty behind Sylvester Stallone and his style of not only acting but directing, producing.
Yeah.
Stop and think about it, man. I mean, there's so much we could have a podcast just on Rocky, right?
Hey, you must have liked Vision Quest too. Really quick before we get into this.
No, Vision Quest. Yeah,
that was a great movie.
I know we were interrupted by the fun game, but definitely let's get back to VDC or voices.com. And it's funny that you had mentioned your initial job, but I'd gotten a job with a large company, the cell phone that, the older folks and stuff now. And I had gotten my first job after, I think it was like 200 auditions as well.
Yeah.
And not only I didn't get any feedback, but they didn't pay me for like a month. And I was going back and forth with customer service, and finally for a $150 job, I'm like, really? The folks out there, keep trying, man. Don't give up and think that I've done 100, I'm not getting anything.
And sometimes if you just get into it and you think you're really good at acting, you're going to find out how good you really are. I mean, yeah, it's selective, but you'll have a wake-up call. I had my wake-up call. I had to improve on things. So, hey, we all have to improve.
My theory on the pay-to-play is, again, it's a business, right? It's a marketing platform where they bring together some of the top talent and some of those that are aspiring voice actors, right? But when you're in it for a while and you know that you have your performance down, and let's say that it's for a national gig, and this is what I was going to talk about, because I was really starting to become deflated. I was depressed in terms of performance. I'd been working on coaching with a variety of different coaches, and Mark Cashman, who is my coach, has done an incredible job with me. I've come a long way in the last 7 months or so with him. And I was starting to implement some of the techniques that he has given me. And so around the June timeframe, I noticed that I was more selective in what I was auditioning for, and that I was going for the higher paying jobs. And I was trying to audition to those when they popped up as soon as possible. I started getting shortlisted for just about 90% of those jobs. Shortlisted, which to me was a pat on the back. That's all I needed.
Right. That's validation.
Right after the 4th of July, I was shortlisted for a national spot, and it was a nice paying. It was a national TV spot. Okay, so I bid for it, stayed in line with the GVA rates, and I was contacted almost immediately. And this was a full service through voices.com. And they said, what if we want to do this type of licensing? And I said, let me work up a quote and I'll respond. So I did. And I wasn't going to cut my rates because I think they wanted originally in perpetuity for licensing. And then they said they wanted to go only to a year license or maybe a 3-year license with an option for perpetuity. So if you know business, right, there's negotiation here.
Absolutely.
So do you want to drop your price for the difference in licensing? Yeah. For me, it's all about value proposition. What I'm providing you is a service, in this case, a voiceover for something that's going to be listened to by millions of people, right? So I priced it accordingly, but I didn't cut my price significantly as what maybe they were looking for. I never heard back on that short list. They never even responded.
That's funny you say that, because on the ACX, I discover that a lot, where these people or these authors or whatever, they don't like to negotiate. It's just like you give them a price, and if they don't like it, they just go, see you later, hasta la vista.
Yeah.
And you're left empty-handed. But I mean, I like to wheel and deal myself, but I'm not going to sell myself short.
Well, I don't think we even need to wheel and deal, so to speak, in voiceovers, Brad. I think here's my perspective on negotiating is if you've been doing this for 3 or 4 or 5 years and you know where your niche is, you know how your performance is, that it's spot on. Like Jim and I were talking last night about a narration that he was doing for Abraham Lincoln. So the performance is down. Now, are there going to be subtle differences between Brad versus Jeff versus Jim? Absolutely, right? But that's the interpretation of the copy, which is key. But the delivery, it might, you might zig and I'm going to zag. But at the end of the day, if I deliver on that and you're going to be using it for commercial purposes, then I deserve and we deserve as professionals to be compensated fairly for that. Okay. What's happened with the marketplace, and it's great that Fiverr is doing so well, but hey, they're making 20% off of all of our, right off the top, right?
Right.
Same thing with Upwork and these other freelance sites that are doing that. So they have one hell of a business model and they recognize that. And so the rates have been shifted down and you get a lot more talent, but not all the talent are the top tier. Most of the talent are just getting by. And you know this. I mean, if you've been in the business a while to recognize, even on voices.com, I think Bill told me he's like maybe 30 or 40% of the people that are actually out there, they're just trying to wing it and do it. But when you get into the top 20, 30, 40% that are professionals, think about that. When you have 100 auditions or 120 auditions submitted for a national gig, a national spot, they have to choose one person out of those. Let's say there's 30 or 40 auditions that are just spot on, man. So
exactly.
You got to win the lottery.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I want to get off the pay to play wheel here pretty soon. I think I've already made the determination. Yeah. I might keep one membership. I'm going to let all the others lapse because, quite honestly, if they're not rated on Voices, let's say, for example, and they're looking for $150, script, let's say the job's $150 for their budget, I usually just blow over it, especially if they've never been rated, because maybe they're fishing. Maybe they're just trying to see what the spot, especially if the copy is poorly written. Let's talk about that. Many of these spots are so poorly written, they don't have a professional copywriter. They're just trying to, you can tell the difference when it's written really well versus very poorly.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you got to make it work somehow, some way.
Well, there are a lot of people out there that will tell you, listen, I'm going to work for $5 a day because it's some work is better than no work. I disagree on that philosophy. I don't believe that's the case at all. I think you have to pick and choose whether you're going to do audiobooks or podcasts, or if you're doing commercial, if you're doing long form narration or e-learning, whatever your bread and butter is. But I think each artist has to make the decision on their own to say, no, I'm not going to play with it. I'm not going to work on Fiverr for $5 for 500 words.
It's not even $5.
That's what I'm saying. So you take out the 20%. I'd make $4 and I spent 45 minutes on. To me, that's a kick in the.
Well, if you think of it this way, if you go to Burger King and you have a coupon, you can get the 2 Whoppers, 2 Cokes, and 2 small fries for $5. So
this guy,
so maybe you got to think of it in another way. I don't know.
What's that old commercial? I don't know. I'm probably aging myself here, but the guy walked into McDonald's. I got $1 and I want breakfast. Remember that?
Yeah. So, remember that movie Falling Down where the guy's looking at the picture and he's like, it doesn't look like the picture. I don't know if you've seen that. Was it Michael Douglas or who was it?
Michael Douglas. Yeah, Michael
Douglas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that movie was awesome. But
I think that's the case here. And so as voice actors, as aspiring voice talent, you have to go where the jobs are. But I think there's got to be a realization, the market is, I say it's flooded, and it's great competition. But I only think probably there's only 10 or 15% of the talent that's globally, that's probably doing really well.
It's killing it. Yeah.
Is killing it. A lot of us are just struggling to pay the bills.
Maintain
and
sanity.
That's not to discourage anybody. That's just speaking truth here. These are truth bombs going off. They're exploding everywhere, right?
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And also, I would like to hear your final thoughts as far as your journey here in voiceover.
First, I want to say thank you to both of you for having me on. This has been incredible. And I'm sorry, we kind of talked about a variety of topics today.
It's awesome.
But my journey specifically has been, I am blessed beyond belief, guys. I really say the American dream. I've lived it. I've realized it. I think you guys saw my new bike. I pulled on Saturday. Nice. I decided to upgrade because I was tired with my Heritage Classic, my Softail. I do a lot of riding to go up and see my buddy in the mountains and being on the freeway. So I went to a touring model. And, that didn't happen overnight. I said it took me 25 years to realize that dream. The same is true. It's applicable for anything that you want to pursue passionately. It's not going to happen overnight. Voiceovers is not a get-rich quick scheme. It never has been. It never will be. If someone's telling you different, I've got some land down in the Everglades I want to sell you. All right. Reality is, it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of patience, a lot of persistence. You're going to get a hell of a lot of rejections, more so than any yeses that you'll ever see. So if you've got thin skin, this isn't for you. And as Bill Dewey says, if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to get very far. This is a marathon journey, and you better be well prepared for it. I want to say it's like combat. And Jim, you can probably chime in here. If you're not trained properly and you don't know what you're getting into, it's going to get ugly quick.
Yeah, Haji's going to get you. I'm sorry, flashback. Sorry.
Come on. Stop taking cover over there.
Yeah.
Get up, bushes, dumbass.
It's just like a proper firefight, and you have to make sure that you're dialed in and you know what everyone's doing. The same thing is true, and you guys mentioned this earlier. We wear literally so many different hats as a voice actor, and as a multimedia producer, I do it all from marketing, and I do it all. And so my journey, it still continues on. I'm humbled that I'm able to do this from the comforts of my own home in a professional studio, that I'm able to collaborate with other professionals like yourself. And so if anyone has questions or wants to learn more about myself or would like to book or a free audition, they can go to my website, and it's really easy. It's jeffzappvoiceovers.com, and that's Jeff, JEFFZAPP. So all one word, jeffzappvoiceovers.com. And then in the top right-hand corner of the website, they can click on any social media links. I'm not much on Twitter. And that, like I said earlier, I'm not really a big social media fan, but Instagram and Facebook I'm active on. I do have a YouTube channel. I just haven't done much with that. So I do everything from video promos for racing that I specialize in, but I can do pretty much anything that needs a voice as well as video. So yeah, I appreciate the chance to give myself a plug there too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Big Jim, why don't you put out your social media accounts there, bud?
You can find me on bigjimmedia.com. That's www.bigjimmedia.com. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter is at Big Jim Media. Throw me a quick text out there or something, or a shout out and all that good stuff, and see if I can help you out.
Head over to my website, bradstormvo.com. You can check me out on Instagram and Twitter at bradstormvo, Brad Storm Voiceover on Facebook, and Brad Storm Lanou on LinkedIn. And possibly looking to get into TikTok here. I don't know, man. That wormhole looks scary to me. But Jeff, thank you for coming on the show. Big Jim, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you. And remember, everybody out working the voiceover battle, when life gets you down, you just got to punch every day in the face. Yeah!